So far this season, experienced drivers in their new team, Perez, Sainz, Alonso, Vettel and Ricciardo, are all struggling relative to their incumbent teammates. It underlines just how big familiarisation is with the car, its operating systems, the power unit and the team itself, and just the way the team operates, especially when everyone had just 1.5 days of pre-season testing. We talked last week about how Perez was resolved into following Max Verstappen's preferences with the car, then going his own way because recent Red Bull history suggests the way to extract the most performance from it. Checo's reason is up to him to familiarise himself with how such cars drive rather than with another driver. At Imola, he'd put himself in the front row ahead of Verstappen, who'd run a wheel off the dirt on his final qualifying lap and lost about a quarter of a second, but that promise faded with 3 crucial and uncharacteristic errors in the tricky conditions of the race. 2 of the driving and 1 of the judgment were left him out of the points. It's encouraging that he's closer to Verstappen's pace than each of his predecessors in the seat, but the gap over a single lap, 3 tenths in Bahrain and more in Portugal and Spain, it is still quite concerning. He's making good progress, and the assumption is that he will suddenly shave the gap, but just like Valtteri Bottas, he is being measured against one of the fastest the sport has ever seen. Sainz went into Ferrari under no illusions about how high Charles Leclerc would be setting the bar, and hasn't been surprised. There's still often decent gaps in qualifying between the two of them. He's still feeling his way, and like pretty much all of the group, the biggest difference on track seems to be the confidence in the slower corners, but built into how aggressive they can be on the brakes, how early on the power, how consistent they can be from one lap to the next. The rain in the early stages of Imola might have been used to given Sainz a chance, usually one of the absolute best in the wet, a chance to shine. He was briefly very quick then, but catalogue of lockups and runways negated the effect of that. I'm not now used to the feeling of the brakes with the car on inters, said Sainz after the race, but a look at how quick Sainz was between the incidents is interesting. Just look at the Aquaminari ran off a second time. He'd lapped 0.7 seconds quicker than Leclerc, and after a calm lap to stabilise things, he was again quicker than Leclerc for 5 of the next 6 laps. He pulled it all together sufficiently well to finish on Leclerc's tail in 5th, having started 7 places behind him. So as with Perez, progress is being made, even if he's not yet at the level where he's habitually reached with his previous team. Daniel Ricciardo, having against the run of play managed to pull out a fast qualifying than Lando Norris in Spain, technically has done it in 3 races this season, where he lined up at 6 in Bahrain, but no one was pretending this reflected the reality in Imola, where Norris went wide in Q3, costing him 3rd. This left him relying on his old tyre time, and even that was only half a tenth slower than Ricciardo. In the race, Daniel had to swallow the pride and allow Norris past team instructions. Lando then going on a styling drive, which put him on a podium almost half a minute ahead of Ricciardo in 6th. Daniel's way better than this, but how long will the acclimatisation take? Hopefully in Spain, it's like it's starting to come to an end, and fingers crossed. Sebastian Vettel, after the nightmare of Bahrain, where he'd been trapped in Q1 by yellow flags and made contacts while dicing with Esteban Ocon in the race, wasn't having a great time of it in Imola. He qualified quarter of a second off the Aston Martin teammate Lance Stroll. Then he had to start from the pit lane after the team ran out of time to make repairs on his burnt-out brake tins on the grid. A subsequent time penalty for this dropped him even further behind, but there was some promise at least. One of the first onto the 6 in the wet phase of the race, he was lapping very quickly, and then when the red flags came out 7 laps later, indeed he was the fastest man on tracks on lap 29 and 30. There's something to build on there. Even in Bahrain, probably flattered Alonso. We lost to reference to Ocon in qualifying because of that yellow flags caused by Nikita Mazepin. Fernando had qualified the Alpine in Q3 and helped by the medium tyre bid in Q2 of the faster cars of Perez and Yuki Tsunoda. Being Imola, we had that Ocon comparison throughout, and it revealed Alonso to be trailing Ocon by half a second in Q2, and that has continued in the next 2 races. Like others, he got away with one off the wet reconnaissance laps. He got back to the garage and had a new wing fitted, but had a couple more in the race. He did run much of the afternoon in very close company with Ocon. The red flag just fell just as Ocon had pitted, put Alonso directly ahead of him at the restart, but he was unable to stay there. Ocon getting ahead after 7 laps, Alonso tracking him to the line and right on his tail. I feel 300% better prepared for the race related Alonso, because there was so much different conditions, different tracks, different restarts and everything. I always said it would make 3 or 4 races, but I think it's coming together. Watching how performances of these 5, but all but Sainz's Grand Prix winners, a couple of them world champions, but all pitched against younger teams, is going to be one of the fascinations of the season. Anyway guys, that's it for the video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, let me know your thoughts and comments down below, and finally on Twitter, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, and subscribe to my channel on the screen right now, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace!